Okay. Yeah, thanks. So I'm French, but I'm living in Vietnam. I've been working for in marketing with Trust for about 3 years now, and I'm specialized in digital analysis. I've been playing around with data for since I started to work. I was an engineer before, so I kind of have a background in IT. Here are my contact details. If you have any questions after this training, feel free to contact me directly. We will be recording this training, and I will be sharing also the slides after the presentation. So what we will cover today is, I will start with a brief introduction on I have people that comes in. I will start with a quick introduction on data visualization, and most of the training will be related with analytics, since it's the data source that I'm using the most. And then we will go through DataStudio, so I will try to present most of the features, and we'll go through all the visualizations that we have in DataStudio. But before we jump into the tool, I would like just to remind and put everything a bit in perspective, just to remind you that reporting is only one part of the optimization framework. So as an analyst and as someone creating a dashboard, you should always have in mind that the main objective of the dashboard is not only to show data and KPIs and show nice charts, but the main and only objective will be to optimize and make the best of your website. So this is the optimization framework that is for Google Analytics, but it can be applied for almost anything. The first thing that you will have to do is have a strategy in place. So make sure that you already know everything that needs to be measured on your website. So what's called the measurement plan. List all the KPIs, the metrics that I mentioned that are important to you, but also know the current state, because most of the websites and most of the analytics are broken. So you may have not everything that you require, but you have to know what is working and not working. Then, based on what you need, make sure that you propose the implementations that are required. So measure what you need and what matters. So be in relation with the IT teams or with the analytics team to make sure that you have everything implemented. And then comes the reporting. So once you have the data and the configuration, the analytics configuration that enables you to collect everything, then you will have to create reports and analyze your data. For instance, in analytics, there is a lot already of built-in visualization. So I always recommend to start with what you already have. And then if you have to create specific reports or dashboards, then you can use tools as DataStudio. DataStudio is not the only one, but that's the one that works the best with analytics, since it's the same company. And then reporting and analysis goes with, you have to take into consideration the optimization of your website. What you will report on and what you will analyze will enable you to find out what is working and not working on your website, and potentially find hypotheses to optimize it. There are 6 steps and that are important for effectiveness in analytics.
Can I just jump in for a second, Ben? Sorry guys. I've just noticed that we're just seeing all of your slides. So if you go into presentation mode, then it will work better for us, I think.
Yeah, but I will have to jump in DataStudio in a couple of slides. That's why I'm staying like this.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, but I can just view.
You can you're actually also able to make me the co-host now if you want to do that, to make it a bit easier on yourself.
That's okay. Well, I hope you can read it better than before now. So the 6 steps of analytics effectiveness. The first one will be the collection. So that's why I was presenting you in the optimization framework. Make sure that you have all the necessary data for your reporting. Make sure that you track anything that is relevant to you. The second one is the aggregation. I give you some examples while I'm creating the DataStudio report. Make sure that you have that you limit the unnecessary fragmentations. Then the segmentations. Well, it's a concept that is well represented in analytics, but make sure that you reclassify and consolidate the data as you require. And then the 3 other ones will be the integration, the visualization, and the interpretation. So integration, if we still continue with analytics, you have some integrations that are already supported, like as AdWords, AdSense, DoubleClick, but you can also integrate your CRM data. Or if we were to talk about external data, make sure that you aggregate everything and integrate the data into one single data source, so you can use that one as a source for your DataStudio report. And then the visualization. Each type of visualization serves the data in different ways. So make sure that you use the best visualization for what you need. And then the interpretation. A dashboard, the worst case for a dashboard is not to be used or interpreted. Make sure that if you deliver a nice and very beautiful DataStudio report, you accompany, you serve it with interpretation and analysis. So now we jump, before we jump into DataStudio, it's one step that I won't stay long on that one, but it's just to remind everyone that before you jump into your visualization tool and you create nice things, make sure that you have an idea of where you go. So the first thing we have to is know your source of data. And when I'm saying that is make sure that you list every matrix and dimensions that you want to report on, because the more you know on your data, the better you will be, the easier it will be to serve it. So create your measurement plan just for that particular dashboard, and then create a mockup. So to create a mockup, you either use a whiteboard or a piece of paper. Then you just list every potential source of data that you will have to use. So for instance, if everything is in GA, that's easy. But if you want to merge that with Facebook data or with AdWords, it means that you have different source of data and that you will have to aggregate everything into a single report. Then make sure that you know for who this dashboard is and how many times they will use it. If it's a monthly report, a weekly report, or a daily report, it will change drastically the way you present the data. Then once you have all those listed, list the questions that you want to answer. What are the key areas that you want to cover in your dashboard? And then from there, you create the mockup, place the different elements, the type of visualization for each of the questions that you want to answer. And common thread would be to put on the top of your dashboard the KPIs, and the lower you go, the deeper into the data. One thing to keep in mind is really keep it simple. I've seen so many times where we create complex and very long dashboards, and at the end of the day, there is only one metric that is interesting to the person that is accessing it. Make sure that start really simple, just answer the 3 questions that they have, and then if they want more insights or more complexity of it, add it. The sophistication go later, and when I deliver dashboards to clients, I always start with a very easy one and add things only if they ask me to. It's easier to add than remove. So now we'll go into DataStudio, and we'll start. I would review almost every features that we have in DataStudio. I will go through a few slides, and then I will jump into the tool and show you directly. So for those who never opened DataStudio, this is like the dashboard when you connect. So you will need a Google account. On this, you have on the top you have the different templates, and I invite you to always get inspiration from others. Don't try to recreate the wheel. There are a lot of dashboards for almost everything. And recently, they also have added the report gallery, so you have also access to, like, a lot of people are also sharing their own dashboards. One thing is keep up to date. DataStudio is quite new. It's only like 2 years old. So you have new features coming in every month, every couple of weeks. So I try every time that I create a new dashboard, I just go there, see what's new, and try to use it and integrate it in my new dashboards. Here you will have the list of all the dashboards you have created or access to. So just by clicking, you will open it. So what we will do today is we will start from scratch. So when you create the report, the first thing that you will have to do, well, it seems obvious, but you need to name your report. It's really important, but if you are like me and you're working in an agency, you may end up with thousands of reports. So make sure that you are following kind of naming convention that makes sense to you. And then you will have to select your data source. So either you have already a data source, so that's why the naming is also important for data source, or you just create a new one. So when you create a new one, they have loads of connectors that exist in DataStudio. I will not list all of them. Today, I will just show you an example with Google Sheets and Google Analytics. But the first thing is you select your type of connector, and then you select, for instance, in that case, it will be the spreadsheet you want, and then the worksheet you need. The same, name your data source. Especially if you have multiple data sources in the same report, you better use a name before you get lost. Once you have selected the data source, you will, I know before we just review all the connectors that you have. This is not all of them, but that's the most important. The one I use the most is the Google Sheets, because I have the tendency of exporting the data that I want. Instead of using everything, like I could use the Google Analytics connector, but I rather limit my data source to only the few metrics that I have to report on. So it's kind of, we go back to the mock-up report that needs to be created to be done before you jump in. Is like, if you know exactly the few metrics that you need, by listing them, you make sure that you limit yourself to exactly what you need. You can do, well, you have the full list here. I invite you to read the documentations. Some of them are like, for instance, Omniture or other analytics tools have like special connectors that can be linked with through Supermetrics. But I invite you to read all the documentations on it, because it's not native for all of them. So every Google product will be easy to do, but any other, I invite you to verify. So once you have the connection done, the first step is to verify what you have. So DataStudio will automatically recognize the type and of your different metrics and dimensions. So in green will be your dimensions, and in blue, your metric. Review all the types and the method of aggregation, and make sure that it corresponds to the metric or the dimensions that you have. Once you have that, you can, at that stage, you can also create new metrics or new dimensions by duplicating existing ones. So that's one of the things I often do. So you can, I will give you an example later, but you just, like, for instance, here we create a duplicate on the revenue, and then just by changing the method of application, instead of having the revenue, we just have the max revenue on the period. You can also create your own custom fields. This is quite powerful because you can use a lot of different formulas. So you can use your own metrics and dimensions and just like tweak it. So in this example, I just calculate the average revenue by dividing the revenue by the number of transactions. It's quite powerful, and I really invite everyone to we create the metrics that you need to aggregate the dimensions, rewrite the campaign names. You have a lot of things that you can do. Here is the link to all the formulas that are supported. I listed only the ones that I use the most. So the concat is the concatenations of two strings, lowercase, uppercase. This one is really useful, especially if you have like UTM naming conventions that are not respected. So you have like the same campaign that is written different ways, so you can just like aggregate everything. Regex expression, I often use the extraction part of it. So I will give you an example with, I will extract the one part of the name of the analytics view. Instead of using everything, I just simplify. And then the one also that I use a lot is case. And I will show you on how to create that. So now I would just jump in DataStudio, and I will basically redo everything that I've just presented it, but in live, because I consider that if you see it in live, it will be easier for you to understand. So this is the dashboard I was telling you. You have also the Explorer that I will present a bit later. So I would just start by creating a new report. But before we go in the report, I will just present my data source, because as you remember, the data source is on the requisite step that you have to do. So what I've done for this training today is I exported in Google Sheets only the data that I required for my report. I've been using the Google Analytics add-on. So if you want to know, there is like the documentation. It's pretty easy to use. And what I've done is I extracted for this particular view for the whole year those different metrics. So I've selected the user, sessions, transactions, transaction revenue, and the average time on page. And then I broke it down per date and channel grouping. So to be able to configure that and make sure that I'm collecting relevant data, I'm using the Dimensions and Metrics Explorer, which would give me the API names of the metrics and dimensions that I want to export. And more important is the fact that by selecting the different metrics or dimensions that I have, I make sure that they are that I can combine them. So everything that is in gray means that that particular session, that particular dimension or metric is not compatible with those ones. So before I extract data from analytics, I always make sure that first I'm extracting the right metric or dimension. So just by clicking it, I will get the definition, but also make sure that it's compatible. So depending on the scope of the metric. So you have it can be user scope, session scope, kit scope, or product scope. Based on that, I make sure that I have the data that I want. So here is my configuration file, but here is how my data is looking. So this is my two dimensions, date and default channel grouping that are the two dimensions I'm breaking my data. And then I have those 5 metrics: user, sessions, transactions, revenue, and time on page. So I have day by day for every single channel grouping the metrics. One thing to note on DataStudio is when you are using Google Sheets, it will use the first row as the name of your dimensions and metrics. So make sure that you don't have any typo here, because it will be used as the name of your metric or dimension in DataStudio. So if I go in DataStudio, I will create a new report. So the first thing that I will do is I will name it, and I will call it training DataStudio. And the second thing is I need to make the connection with my data source. So I have the list of all the data sources that I've already used in other reports, but here I want to create a new one. So I will click on create a new one. Here is the list of all the connectors. So like I was telling you, there are a lot. So make sure that if you are like using a particular data source, make sure that if there is a connector, use it. If you are not sure, what I like to do and often do is it's just I use Google Sheets, export the data there, aggregate, clean that, and then use the Google Sheets. So here I will use that. Then I will select my Google Sheet here, which is the training data studio, and then the general performance worksheet. Then I make the connection. So here, automatically, DataStudio will make the connection and will use the first row of my Excel file as the name of my metrics and dimension. I will rename my data source so it makes sense and it's not too long. And then the first step I need to do here is to review. So I have in green my 2 dimensions and in blue my 5 metrics. So in terms of fields, we good. We don't have an error here. Now I need to verify the type. So the date is a date. That's okay. Channel grouping is okay. What I can see here is revenue is not using the right type. It's not just a number. It's money. So I will even select the currency. And then average time on page. This is not a number. This is a duration. And it's really important because when we do the aggregation, when we sum up those time, if we are not using the right type, it will just report on the wrong numbers. So here I have like the basic ones. Here what I will do is I will create new custom fields. So the first I will do is I will create a new dimension. So I just copy the date. I will rename it. And instead of the date, I will just use the month. So here I'm just changing the type. So I go in date and time, and I will just select it as year and month. So now I have 2 date dimensions. One is the date, the other one is the month. And then I will create, based on revenue, I will create a new one, which is the max revenue. So the type is the same. The only thing that I will change is the method of aggregation, and here I will return the max. So just with like 2 dimensions and 5 metrics, I can already calculate a few things, and I don't need to export everything. I can recalculate here. So for instance, based on the revenue, I will also create the average booking revenue. So instead of the sum, I will make the average. And yeah, I could make the average, or I can just recalculate it myself. So I will apply a formula in that particular case. So I will do like the revenue, revenue divided by the number of transactions. So here I apply the formula, but if I had applied just like the method of aggregation with average, I would have the same value. So here am I. And then to show you the next one, I just want to show you a bit of data before we jump in. So the thing is, I have, so I extracted for all the channels my different metrics. But the thing is, I want to regroup them, reaggregate them. So I don't have like 9 channels, but only 5 or 6. Because all those ones, like other affiliates, referrals, and socials, are not really important to me. So I would just create a new custom channel grouping based on this one and renaming everything. So like this, I can show you how to use the case formula. So I create a new one, which is called the custom channel grouping. And I will use the formula case. So in the case when my default channel grouping is, I will start with organic search, is organic search, then what I will do is I will rename it, because to me SEO makes more sense than organic search. It's not true, but it's just for the sake of the example. Here I will do another one with the paid search. Instead of having paid search, I will just rename it paid to just make it simpler in terms of when I will display it. And then what I will do is I will group. So I want to group those 4, social, referral, affiliates, and other, into only one channel. So what I will do is, so I will start with other. No, if it's other, or if it's affiliates, or if it's referral, or social, I will even include email, or email, then I will call it other. And then I will put a default value. So for all the other channels that are not those, I just keep the current name, and then ends. I will show you what it does. I hope I haven't made any typo. So if I add my custom channel grouping here, I will see that organic search has been renamed into SEO, paid search into paid, direct stays the same, display also, and all of those here have been regrouped into one single, which is called other. So it will help me, instead of having that broken down by 9 channels, now I will be able to just have my metrics, but broken down by only 5 of them. So I can easily rework on the data that I have extracted and regroup as pleased, basically. Then so now I've my data source that is ready, and I have almost all the metrics and dimensions that I need. Before I start to create all the visualization, we will need to set up the theme and the layout. So this is really standard, but since this configuration will be applied to all the charts and visualization that you will do, it's better to do it before you even start. So you can select and choose things like the size of your report, the color, the font. You can do quite a lot of things. And then you can also import images, logo, text. So it's quite limited in terms of designs and things that you can do. But since you can import images, you can do report pretty cool. So I'm not a designer, so you will see my report won't be crazy beautiful. But just to show you a few example, things that I often do in my reports is make sure that I have a banner. So I will try to make my best here, but I think it will be one of the ugliest banner you ever seen. But so you can add text, you can add images. Here I will call it my new dashboard. You can apply the colors. I won't stay too long on that one because it's really easy to get. You just go through all the things that you have, the configurations, just try by yourself. And then you have the images. So I will take the example here where I just import my logo. But in some of the dashboards we've done, we created a dashboard in Adobe, and then we re-imported all the elements the designed element that we've done. So you can do like pretty nice things. And then you can change, like I said, the fonts that will be used for all your charts, that will be applied across the palette. So you can really match with the colors of your brand or of your client's brand. Yeah. And then the one thing I often change is the size. Yeah. So if you want to be printable, well, you better use a standard size. But for that case today, I will make a very big one so I can put a lot of visualization in the same page. So now what we do is we'd go through all the visualizations that exist in DataStudio, and for each of them I would just like create and show you examples of what you can do, how you can configure it. So you have like 9 types in total, so we'll go through all of them. So the first one that we will do is the scorecard. But before we go, I would just apply a date selector, because since I've exported only data for 2017, the first thing that I need to do is make sure that I apply my selector for everything. Okay, so the first one that I will go through is the scorecard. So the scorecard is one of the best visualization for displaying a key metric or KPI that you have. You have the possibility of applying different styles and things. I often do I like to use the border shadow, so it makes like a card basically. Once you are happy with the visualization, I just copy paste the elements and just change the metric I'm reporting on. So here I will just create a few of them, like session, user, well, basically almost all the metrics that I have in my data source. One thing, for instance, with the revenue, one thing which is that I often use is the compact number. You don't need to know that you have like 1,000,002 cents. So you just can use compact numbers when you realize. And one thing I really like too is, let's say that while you are doing that, you realize that you want to report on the average or the max revenue, for instance, and you haven't, let's imagine that I haven't created this metric. What you can do here is actually edit. So it will edit this metric, but for that particular visualization. So here I will just quickly, I can just change the method of aggregation, and I can directly report on my max revenue on the period. So this is a really, I often use it, especially if this metric will be used only here for that purpose, then you don't need to add it on your data source. You just create it on the fly. And then, yeah, and maybe I will add the number of transactions. So the scorecard is often the one that you put on the top of your dashboard. While you can group them by type and things like this. Here it doesn't make sense to have like a .0, so we just remove. So you are like pretty free of how you want the data to be presented. You could also remove the name of the metric, or just directly edit it and change. You don't want transaction, you want transact. You can edit and change the name as you want. Then in terms of presentation, you have like the distribute that I often use. It's like when you are not a designer but you still want your dashboard to look not too bad. So at least align things distributed across the dashboard. And here you are. So the scorecard are like really pretty straightforward. It's like the value of your key metric. Next one would be column chart. So the column chart will be good to if you want to compare like categories. It's easy to communicate information about which group is performing better than the other, which one is the lowest, how much this item is bigger than the other. So what I will do when you have so it's quite limited in the number of things you can do, but if you are limited, it means that what you want to show is a bit too complex. I kind of like the fact that it's limited. So either you have either you report on 2 metrics at a time, or you break it down by 2 dimensions. So first example that I will do will be with 2 metrics. So what I have here is the number of sessions and users for each of my custom channel. I think it's easier to read like this, especially that if you use the bar chart, it's easier to show like data labels. So this is one of the examples. And then the other one that I will do is instead of reporting on 2 metrics, I will break it down by another dimension. So here it doesn't really make sense, but it's just to show you what you can do. So what I've done here is I compared my default channel and my new custom channel. Just let me switch that. And I will remove the data. So here we can see on how I re-aggregated all those channels into a single one. So really based on what you want to show, use the bar chart or the column chart, add the labels. You can also add the axis. I think it's quite important, especially when you have only 1 metric. Make sure that you know what is reporting here. So here it's users. Add titles, and here we are with the column chart. You could also remove the legends if you don't want to. Next that I want to present is the time series and area charts. So time series, well, it's just to show displays on how data is changing through time, over time, to see the trends in your data. Is it growing up, down? Is it stable? So here is the same. Time series, you will have to get a date dimension that is linked to your time series. You can't do time series if you don't have dates. And you can break it down by special dimensions. So for instance, here I would just break it down by the one I created. Here it makes a bit hard to read, but I will show you later on how to filter part of those. Then for each of the series that you have, you can also change the visualization. So for instance, here, I want to put emphasis on paid. So if I put bars, it will help me to show that, or I can put, I don't know, show points, for instance. Well, here we don't see much, but if I put on the, here, on the SEO, it helps sometimes. And then, so this one is to see, it's helping me to see like the how much each channel is driving users through time. But if I use, so you can change the type of your visualization directly here. It will use the same metrics and dimensions. It would just change the type. So If I use the area chart, so it's the exact same data, just the visualization is changing. Here I will see the overall traffic, the overall number of users that I have, and I can see the impact of each in terms of distribution and proportion. What I can do on the area chart, and especially if you have like many series, is you can just limit to the three first one, for instance. So here I will see only SEO, paid, and direct, and see the evolution through time. When it comes to time series, the granularity is really important. So I would just show you an example based on what you want to tell, the story that you are, the question that you want to answer. You will have to use different granularity. So just let's take the whole year here. Last year. So if I look at the whole year, you see that we have like a lot of data points. Well, once per day, basically. It's a bit slow. So with that, I can easily spot like very high peaks or drops. For instance, here something happened in my tracking. We lost that day. But I can easily change the granularity just by changing the date dimension. If it wants to, yeah, okay. So I just duplicate that one, and if you remember, I created the month one. So instead of having day by day, I will have the smooth version of my traffic month by month. But I could do, we'd create a new field just to show you. I could do things like by quarter, or just duplicate. Or here I will do by day of the week to see if there is a pattern in how people are accessing my site. So instead of a particular date, I will say the day of the week. So you will aggregate all the data, but differently. So I will just copy paste that one. And instead of the month, I will use the day of the week. So now I have like the total number of sessions that my website had on Sundays, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or Saturday. Instead of having through time, I have the average, the proportion of each traffic per day. This visualization is not the best to see that one. So like I was saying, you can just change the type. So you realize that this time series is not the best. You can just change by clicking here. So if I do like this, it's clearer that Tuesday is the day you receive the most traffic in average. But like if you were to run a special campaign or things like this, you would choose Tuesday or the Saturdays, for instance, because you know that people are not accessing to your site. Then the next visualization that we go is the pie chart. Pie chart, well, there is no a lot to say about pie chart. The only thing that you can do is, well, here we have like the percentages. So instead of percentages, you could change it to values, for instance. So here I will have the, what did I take? Yeah, let's take the revenue. So I know that SEO drove $485,000 in the year, no, in the month actually. I tend that donuts or pie charts shouldn't be like standalone visualization. it helps to see the proportion, but I will always put aside like another visualization, like a bar chart or something that just helped me. So it helping me to interpret this data, but by itself, it's not sufficient to me. Next one will be the table. So table for me is one of the most useful one. So you can share a lot with tables, and compared to analytics, you can configure it and limit to only the metrics and dimensions that you want. DataStudio is improving their table like every month. They're adding new things. So here I will just show you few of them. So what I will do is I will put the metrics that I want. So I will do user, session, transaction, and revenue for my custom channel. Thing is, I will add. I think the summary row is quite interesting. So it's showing me like the total for each row. This is the first time I often put. Okay, so I have only 5 channels, so I can. I will just remove the pagination because it doesn't make sense. I don't need the row numbers. I have 5, so I know. So I will just remove that. I will just put it, distribute a bit my metrics. And so for each column, you can tweak it. So for instance, the user, what I could do, so this is the column 1, is use heat map. So it's just to help in a glimpse. You can directly, well, here it's obvious because I have sorted by user. But the heat map in a glimpse helps you to find out the best performing channel or the worst performing channel. I don't really care about being very accurate on that one, so I would just like use compact numbers. Sessions, since I have the number of users with like the heat map, I would just show you like the bar with the number, and like this, it's very easy to just compare each channel in terms of how much they're driving traffic. Transaction, well, I will let that one like as it is. And then revenue, so column 4, what I will do is, this is a bar, but I will show the numbers, but compact numbers. And especially that is with revenue, what I will do is I will set a target. So let's say that every month for every channel, we have the target of getting 300,000 K. So here I know that, well, direct, paid, and SEO have fulfilled the target, but all others, for instance, is far from getting that. What I will do now on that is I will show you another feature that they added like was last week, I think. So I would just rename that one, calling revenue per channel. So the renaming is like really important, especially if you have goals, because goals tend to have like very long names. Then here I'm renaming because I'm reusing the revenue value, but here I will change the method of, I will call it total revenue, and they have added like calculation. This is quite recent. So here I can do the sum. So it will add up the revenue of the first row with the second row, with the third, with the fourth, with the fifth, until we get the total. And I realized that I want another metric that I don't have here. So I would just like create a new one, which would be, I know I have it already, so I would just drop it here. The average booking revenue. And I will put column 6, map, and compartments. So I can see that the average booking for paid is actually $600 more than from SEO. I'm not interpreting the data, but it's just to show you what you can do with a table. Next one would be the scatter plot. This one, the scatter chart. So this one is to display correlations between variables, or to review performances across a particular dimension, for instance. So what I would do here is I need to create a new metric, the conversion rate that I don't have. So the conversion rate is the number of transactions divided by the number of sessions. And instead of configuring everything here in my dashboard, since I know that I will be reusing this chart quite a lot, conversion rate, what I will do is I will use the Explorer. So Explorer is also a new feature that DataStudio released recently, or it's still in beta, so you may have some errors. But I think for configuring and creating specific visualization, it's quite good, especially if you are to use the same across different dashboards. So here is, we just changed the focus. So instead of having the whole dashboard and creating visualization, here you are focusing on one specific visualization, configuring as you want, saving it, and then you can copy paste it in the reports that you, or dashboards that you want. So here what I will do is so that I will do my X metrics will be the conversion rate. My Y will be the number of transactions. The bubble size will be my revenue. And I will just change the style. So I have colors that change, and that shows the labels. Up. I will remove the date. Okay, so here I have conversion rate, transaction, revenue, sort by. I can see here that my conversion rate is not of the right type. I'm reporting on number, not percentage. I just need to change. I think I can change it from here. We see we may have a bug from here. Where is it? Conversion rate. No. Sorry. Up. Yeah, it's a percent that I need, not a. So I just changed the type in my source of data. Okay. Custom channel. And then once I have that, the thing that I can do is, so I save it with a real name, which would be scatter plot. I save it, and then I can just, here you have the export to report, copy to existing report. And then if I go back to my DataStudio, I can just paste it. Where is it? It appears way too high in my report. But what I like about the Explorer is, since you are only focusing on one visualization, you can also easily apply. So let's just go back to Explorer. You can easily apply filters here. So if I do, I want to remove some of those, I can just apply a filter, for instance, on the number of transactions. And directly from there, we say if I have less than 50 transactions, it will filter my the whole report. And when I reintegrate it in my DataStudio, I will have already all the filters set up. So this is quite powerful. Yeah, talking about bugs. So I've changed my conversion rates in Explorer, but it didn't take it into account in here. That's okay. Next one will be the geomap. So for geomap, I will use another source of data, since in my current one I don't have any geo information. So if I jump back to my spreadsheet, I have another worksheet which is the revenue report. So for that one, it's a mix of different things. What I've done is I've used a tool which is called Supermetrics, which enables me to export data, but from different analytics view. So here, for instance, I have combined, I don't know, I think I have 11 countries. So each of those are different websites for that particular client. And what I've done is I've extracted for all those websites, day by day, the number of purchase that have been done for a particular result. And then, so this is like coming from analytics, like the name of the report, the number of the purchase, and the revenue. And what I've done is I've written my data source, because I know where the result 9 is in the world, for instance. So this one is in Italy, the 19 is in Russia, the number 1 is in Japan. And it will enable me to report on not only on how much revenue is driven by the website in Thailand, but on in which country the people in Thailand are going. So this is like my data source. So as you remember, the first row will be the name of my metrics and dimensions. So I would just go back to my DataStudio and I will do. So when you are here and you want to add a source, so you go in resource, manage the data source. So I have already the data source that I created before with it's using 16 charts. So here I will add a new one. So same process than before. I just select the type of connector. Then it's the same spreadsheet, but it's not the same worksheet. So right now I'm using the revenue report. I select, then I connect. It's loading. And here again, I need to verify all of the metrics and dimensions. So in that case, I have only 2 metrics, which are revenue and purchase. Revenue is money, so I need to put it in Australian dollar. Then hotel country and country of purchase are the ISO codes for my countries. Result name is a text, date is a date, and view is a text. Okay. So same, I need to rename it properly. Add to report. And then I can do my geomap. So what the first that I will do is, so I need to select the right data source. So since now I have two, I need to make sure that I'm using the right one. Training revenue report. Here my name is a bit long, so I cannot see really the right naming. And then the dimension will be, so country of purchase. So it will be by website and my revenue. So here is like just a visualization of the revenue generated by each country. So each country where I have a website and where I sell my product. So here I can see that New Zealand and Indonesia are driving most of my revenue. But the other way of presenting with a geomap, right, that I would just put close to it is, since I have another dimension, which is the whole country. So those guys that connected in Indonesia, in which country they book an hotel. So here I can see by hotel in the world how my revenue is generated. So I can see that the top one destination will be Canada, for instance. So this is how you could use geomap. I like here the important thing is also to remember that you can easily widen your data source. So if you have like information about the product that are not in your Google Analytics, you may just able to export everything, add more information in your spreadsheet, and then reuse it as your data source. And then the last one out of the 9 would be the pivot table. So this is this one. So this one gives you the ability to display your data in a table, but with multiple dimensions at a time. So for this one, since we have like the visualization here, I will use the same data, so we can relate. So what I will do here is to have the views, which are like the different countries, countries that I have, and then I will not put the result name. I will put the hotel country, and then the revenue. I would just configure so I have the totals that shows up. So how many countries do I have? Yeah, okay. Like this, and then for the rights, and then just the style. What I like to do, when, especially with big tables like this, is just to set up different rows and then the one that we highlight. So if I just go back to my view, what I can see is, like in Singapore, my first source of revenue will be people are going to Canada and spend that much. And then the second destination will be India, the third will be Australia, Italy. And then I have the breakdown on all the countries. So last, you have like the Philippines, the Japan, China. Here is a bit complex because we have a lot. What we could do is use compact numbers to simplify a bit also. And then just to show you another formula. Here, the names of the views are the name that I have in analytics. And here there is like a lot of non-relevant information. Singapore, main view, Singapore. So what I will do is I will create a new field, which will be my simplified view name. And I will use the regex extract. So what I will do is, from the current name, so let me just show you in So this is my current name. So I just need the name of the country. I don't need all this. This is completely irrelevant. So what I will do is I will use a regex, regular expression, that will extract only this word out of this string. So if I go here, I use the regex extract. So for every formula that you are using, you always have like a small description that can explain you a bit of how it works. And then, so I put in parentheses what I want to extract. But I will not go into details into the regex, but you can basically do everything that you want. If you want to extract the third letter of something. So it's particularly useful for campaign names that have been not named properly. So you can just rename everything in a second just by using regex. So instead of using my view, I will use my simplified view. So drag and drop is working. And here, instead of having Singapore, main view Singapore, I just have the name of the hotel, of the website. Sorry. The last thing I want to present. So we went through all the. I would send you the slides that just summarize what I've just said. One big thing is here. I just show you on how to create the different visualization, but there are filters to be applied, segments to be applied. So there are like 3 types of filters that exist in DataStudio. So what we call the category filter, time filters, and field filters. And then you have the data control to change your connector. I will just show you directly in the report. So the first one will be the category filter. So here what I could do is I will add on my page a category filter that will be on my simplified view. So now if I go in the view mode, I can select, for instance, only Singapore, for instance. No, Singapore is not Malaysia. So now all the data that I have in my page will be filtered out on this particular dimension. So I can see here Malaysia is generating $4.9 million for the year. And then on the right, I can see that Malaysian people are going, well, in India first, and then Canada and US. And thanks to the pivot table that I have just below, I also have the summary of everything that I need. So category filters are I mean, this example is on the name of the. So I could select several. Is on the name of my website, but it could be on channels. It could be on type of device. It could be pretty much on anything. Then the second very important type is the date selector that I already kind of show you in here. So basically what it is doing is filtering and showing out the data only for that particular time period of time. One thing to note is that you can either you have you choose manually. So it means that here, anytime that someone will connect to that dashboard, they will be seeing only for December. But then if I do today, every time that someone will connect any day, we just show the data of the day. So you have like the prefix and the manual. So you have all type of range that you can apply. And then the other thing is you can, June, it won't work because I have extracted the data just for December, for 2017. So let's say that by default, it will use last year. Okay, so for the sake of the example here, I will just take December, because I want to show you also something that we call the comparison with the previous period. And especially on scorecards here, they are like really relevant. It's just when you select, so I will select all of them. What I can do at the bottom of the configuration of the data, you can select a period to compare with, so previous year or previous period, and it will show you the relative positive or negative increase or decrease in the revenue or in the sessions, or depending on the metrics. Can be changed into absolute numbers. So instead of percentages, you could show how much more revenue has been generated or how many transactions. Last one would be filters that you can apply. So this is for the category and the date selector. What you can do also is to group things. So let's say that I want that particular, did I select it? Date selector to just play or impact those 3 metrics. I will just simply group. So only this group is depending on the date. So if it's loading. So everything else would be independent of this filter. Well, here it's not really relevant because it's on the top of my dashboard. But if you have like different sections where filters, category filters, or date selectors are not relevant to everything on your page, you better visually separate different zones where the filters are applied. I would just unput that one. And then the last, and I think which is really important to me at least, especially if you are working in an agency and you have like loads and loads of accounts, you have the data control that has been available for months now. It's especially relevant if you have like a dashboard that you could use for many clients. So for instance, here I've just selected, but you have many types. But if I select the Google Analytics one, and then I have that very nice dashboard, then what I can do is in a click, I can select or go from, so this is all the analytics views that I have access to. So I could simply, in a click, visualize something from different accounts and different clients, like quite easily. So this is like really relevant if you have like a dashboard that can be applied on many clients. And that's pretty much it. I try to keep on time. If you have, we have 5 minutes left. If you have any question, if we cannot cover it today, I think we would just feel free to send it to me directly, and I can answer. I hope you.
Yeah. Great, thanks, Ben. So if you guys do have any questions to ask, you just need to raise a hand. So to do that, just click on the participants button at the bottom of your screen, and from there, clicking or raise your hand over on the bottom right. And then Ben will unmute you and you can ask your question. Or if you're a bit shy, you can always put it in the chat box there, and Ben will get back to you. But as Ben said, you know, if you have any follow-up questions later on down the track, you can always send an email to benware at inmarketingwetrust.com.au, or just reply to the email that sent you here and we'll get back to you. Okay, Ursula needs another coffee before she's ready to ask any questions. I think we're on the same page pretty much, Ursula there.
I've been drinking tea the whole way through. Just for information, it's not wine, if you were wondering.
So, okay, it looks like we probably don't have any questions at the moment, but as I said, if you have any follow-up questions later on that you think of, Ben will be happy to answer them. So just reply to the email that's saying here.
Well, thanks everyone, and we'll send through the recording and the slides so you can relate and review it. And if you have any question, yeah, just like shoot. I would be happy to help.
Yeah, I know quite a few of you have signed up for tomorrow's training on Google Analytics with Ben as well. So hopefully we'll see you all there. If you haven't signed up for that, it is at the same time as today's training. So if you want to sign up for that, just shoot us an email and we'll get you all set up. And we do have another one coming up on CRO as well, if you want to sign up for that one too. Okay, Ursula does have a question. How do you connect to Facebook?
Yeah, Facebook is a bit tricky. On the dashboards that I have done, most of the time I was exporting the data and just restraining to what I wanted to report on. The export of Facebook is complete and have like dozens of metrics that are not all relevant. So what I'm doing is actually using either tools or APIs or like automate export, limit to only the metrics that I want, and use the Google Sheet as my data source. Google and Facebook are not like really friends, so you don't have like a very easy way to connect both of them. But the easiest would be like to export and re-import, basically. I hope it answered the question.
Okay, great. I think that looks like it's probably the end of your questions. Oh, great. We're going to see Ursula tomorrow as well. So hopefully we'll see the rest of you there at our analytics training tomorrow as well.
Well, have a nice day and see you tomorrow, hopefully.
Thanks, guys. Bye.